Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in again. I am Katie Batesman, the content director at SheCanCode, and today we're discussing the power of community. I'm lucky to be joined by two fabulous leaders in tech, Megan Stovell-Bone and Lauren Windybank, both co-founders of Tribe, to chat about how community can help you grow, both personally and professionally, foster collaboration and innovation, and help you feel supported as a woman in tech. Welcome, Megan and Lauren. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for taking the time out of your busy days. Can we kick off with a bit of background about each of you to set the scene, please? Lauren, shall we start with you?
Yeah, hi, so I'm Lauren. I'm the founder, firstly, of a tech recruitment business called Roma Black, and then obviously co-founder of Tribe. I started my career in recruitment, which obviously led to me setting up my own business. And through working in the tech industry, I sort of saw a lack of support for females working in male-dominated industries, and that's where sort of Tribe was born, if you like, just as a community, a membership, a network to really help women thrive.
Amazing. And you started in recruitment. I take it when you left school, you weren't thinking, I'm going to end up in the tech industry. That just kind of fell into you. One of those ladies. I hear it often.
Yeah, I don't think anyone steps out with a purpose to be a recruiter. But I had a few jobs, before that, sort of very, very sort of sales-driven roles. And a friend of mine worked in recruitment, so very much fell into it. Was very lucky that I was fast-tracked in my career under a corporate company, and really wanted flexibility, knowing I was going to start a family. So I have a 3- and 4-year-old now. And I set up the business before they were born, just really to build something for myself and to have the flexibility that I knew I needed moving forward.
Yeah, amazing. Today's conversation is going to be good. From what you just said, Megan, yourself, did you fall into tech or did you have a plan?
Oh no, exactly that. So I did fall into tech. So my background, I have a very, I suppose my pathway into tech has been a little bit different. I actually worked in the travel industry to start with. I was a flight attendant for a few years. I then moved into events, which is really where I spent the majority of my career. I was fortunate enough to have quite a few tech companies as my clients when I used to organize large corporate events. One of the clients was the company that I now work for, and I just fell in love with them. I fell in love with their culture, just everything about them. And they actually had an opportunity that came up to work in their enablement team, and I just jumped at it. So yeah, I suppose instead of falling into it, I jumped into the world of tech. And I've been there the last 5 years with the same company. I've done lots of different roles. I started off, as I say, in enablement. I then moved into sales programs, and my current role is transformation program lead for the Europe enterprise team. So yeah, mixed roles, but it's been an incredible journey.
Yes, amazing. I love hearing all of the different ways into tech that people find their way in. And I do never know what people are going to say. You're the first that said I started as a flight attendant.
I don't have to say.
Yeah,
it's a shocking one.
It's lovely that eventually everybody finds their way in some way. And it is true. Everybody seems to think that you have to have a plan and you have to have a computer science degree. And it's something that we talk about a lot on this podcast, that most people that work in tech, that is not the way that they came into the industry. So the more that we hear the different stories and the routes in is something that we love to promote on here. Both of you ladies met, so you had completely different paths. You met and you started Tribe. Can you tell us a little bit about Tribe, how it came about, and your mission? What is it about?
Yeah, so I'll start by telling you how it came about, and then Meg can go into a bit more about Tribe. But Meg and I actually went to school together, and so we had mutual friends, and we were in sort of other sides of the year. So yeah, wasn't sort of close friends at school, but knew of each other and had mutual friends. And a close friend of both of ours had a hen do, and we sort of reconnected on that hen do. And as women that really care about their careers, we got to talking, and we agreed to set something in for a coffee catch up when we got back. and weren't fueled with alcohol. And I said to Meg,
let's talk over coffee.
Yeah. So I said to Meg that I'd come up with a concept of a company called Tribe that would support women, work in male-dominated industries, and I'd love to pick her brains as a female in tech as to what that could really look like. And we went back and forth with a lot of ideas, and Meg actually texted me very shortly after us departing to say, you need me and I need to be a part of this. And so essentially we then went on a path to create what Tribe is today. So yeah, it was a nice, almost like a accidental partnership, if you like, but then very purposeful moving forward. So yeah, Meg can tell you a bit more about actually what Tribe is.
And also, what else happened on that Hindu?
A lot. This is not the space that you'd.
Business came out of that Hindu, so.
That's for a glass of wine, that conversation.
Okay. Well, we'll leave that for another episode.
So Tribe, so ultimately it's an exclusive membership dedicated to building the next generation of female leaders in male-dominated industries. We really want to put our arms around our members, so we want to educate them. We have partnered with world-class coaching and mentors to really give people the opportunity to develop and to grow. The other big part, and obviously why we're talking today, is around that community piece. That's something that we really, as we started to build Tribe, we really saw that as something that's going to be incredibly powerful, is to create a community of like-minded women to really help each other and to inspire one another, and creating that diversity of thought in that community setting, just making it accessible. So as Lauren said, when we first started talking about Tribe over a year ago, it has grown arms and legs, and another thing that we really wanted to incorporate into Tribe was the fact that yes, this membership is for women, but if we really want to create change, lasting change, then we're going to have to bring everyone on this journey with us. So that is male and females. So we also have programs running alongside the main core membership, which is actually for men, to really help to give them the tools that they need to be better leaders, or to be better team members, to really help support women in their organizations.
Amazing, because normally I've spoken to a few men who work in tech, and they said that a lot of that training tends to be things that they're not allowed to say. And that's kind of the training. It's very much don't say this and don't say that, and everything that you do is wrong. And actually treating them more as an ally and showing them how to be a better leader. I mean, you must have great success from that. The feedback from the men must be really positive, that can just want to get involved.
Yeah, and I think Meg and I actually were both very fortunate that we had sort of male role models and sponsors who allowed us to get to where we are today. And so it was quite important to us that, there's a lot of men out there who want to support women. They want to be an ally, but they just don't know necessarily how to shine a spotlight on females. And so for us, our sort of mission was really to create, more women in leadership in male-dominated industries, and how do we all work together to create that positive change. So we target mainly sort of mid to senior upwards females, because a stat that we came across when we were sort of researching a lot about the industry was that 50% of females abandon their tech career by age 35. And obviously working in the recruitment space, I could naturally see the drop off and the lack of female talent. So we knew there was a retention issue, and we knew that something needed to be done. So in most cases, we partner with organisations who utilise that L&D budget and want to create positive change, and form that culture so that we can help see more women progress in not only tech but other male-dominated industries. And essentially create more women in leadership.
Yeah, and I love the fact you mentioned retention there, because there are two problems bringing females into the industry and retaining them, and that leads into a little bit about the benefits of you know, I wanted to ask you a bit about the benefits of network and finding your own community. I assume some of that leads into retention and feeling sometimes like you're not the only one that's feeling a certain way, and you know, community kind of all feeds into that, doesn't it, the benefits of it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really about when you're part of a community of, let's say, being a part of a community of like-minded women, it really helps create that sense of belonging, which is so important, especially if you're working for a larger organization. And within tech, a lot of organizations are predominantly remote working as well. So having that community, it just gives you that safe space and it helps you to feel supported. And when you feel supported, you feel like you can really push yourself outside with your own comfort zone. We have this saying in Tribe, which is, it's the power of the collective. So by bringing everyone together, it's amazing what you can do. It's incredibly powerful.
Yes, definitely. And on that note, how can our listeners get the most of networking? I suppose networking comes in lots of different forms as well, doesn't it? Online, in person, and things have been very different since COVID. Suddenly in-person meetings are back and in-person events. How can our listeners make the most of growing their network?
Yeah, I think I'll draw on a personal sort of experience here. And I think some people hear the term networking and they instantly see it as like a daunting experience or the unknown. And I think actually, if you look at how do I do purposeful networking, you know, what are the areas that I, you know, really would love supporting? Who are the people that I would love around me to bring me up and to learn from? And obviously networking can look in many different forms. You've got internal networking, you know, within your own organization. You've got external networking, you know, events and things like that. Then you've also got online networking. So for example, LinkedIn, and, you know, really looking at, okay, who's in my sort of strategic network? So I just think there's so many different ways that networking can benefit you. And it's firstly about understanding what the purpose is behind you wanting to network, which will enable you to do that purposeful sort of reach out to people, whether that be you're looking for a mentor, you know, you're looking for your tribe, or, you know, you're looking for people within your own organization that you can learn from, or maybe discuss like common challenges with. I think, you know, it's always good to feel like you have that support system, no matter how that looks for you. And it's to look at really what you want to get out of it in the first place, not just aimlessly, you know, using the term networking and just attending events with no real purpose of what you want to achieve out of it.
Yes, I love that, because how many events, and we've all done it, you turn up, don't really talk to anyone, or you talk to the wrong people, and you don't really get much out of it, and that doesn't encourage you to keep networking and keep finding those connections. And you're right, networking is internal networking and external networking, and I think sometimes we forget that. And as you said, if you have a purpose and you know what you're going for, that just makes it so much easier than a blanket, you know, LinkedIn connects until they, you know, put a block on you and put you in jail, or whatever it may be. But yeah, having a purpose for your networking is such good advice. Megan, yourself, have you got any advice? You know, how can our listeners get the most out of their networking, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's going back to Lauren's point about just understanding what you want from that. So say if you're going into an event, it's making sure that you have a goal, you know what you want out of it. I'm quite introverted, so when I go to an in-person event, I can be a little bit nervous. I'm the one that perhaps stands on the side and not as confident to go in. So what I've learned to do now is have a list of a few questions that I want to ask people. Yes. And that just helps me just to go in a little bit more confident. Also as well, I create myself like a little elevator pitch almost in my head as to who I am. So all of a sudden I'll start chatting to someone and I've completely forgotten my name, what I do, it all kind of blanks. So it helps me just to have like a 30-second, almost like a little elevator pitch of who I am, what I do, and kind of what I want out of that conversation as well. So that really helps me.
Yes, that's a really good tip, just to know. I think as well, when people ask you who you are and where you come from, you tend to say your name and your job title, and that's it. And those job titles, well, don't always really scream what you do. And it's so much easier just to explain, what it is that you do, rather than reading off some really long job title that just confuses people. But just having that 30 seconds to think, actually, what is my pitch? And if somebody does ask me, what on earth do I do? And why am I here? Just having that pre-prepared would be so important. I also love those events where they share the attendee list before and afterwards, and then you can just, if you are introverted and you don't find that you get talking to somebody, or even you don't talk to somebody in the queue for the toilets or whatever it may be, at least you can connect with them on LinkedIn afterwards and say, hey, I attended this as well, what did you think? So it's so valuable when they do share out a guest list. That is super helpful for those that might not have the confidence to speak to everybody on the day.
I think that helps people to purposefully network as well, because you know who's going, so you almost can pinpoint, who's maybe someone that I would benefit from speaking to, or who would maybe benefit from speaking to me.
Yes, exactly. And I think sometimes those connections that you do make, you don't always realize that actually they're going to be super helpful years down the line. They might not be beneficial for you at that moment in your career, but then years later you suddenly think, actually, I met somebody who works in that area. And just networking in any form is super helpful, especially in the women in tech community. We're seeing more and more internal networks, which is a great thing. But do you think these could be a step in the right direction to cracking diversity in tech?
Yeah, I really believe so. I've been fortunate enough throughout my past 5 years in my current role to be part of the employee resource group that we have internally, and it's just an amazing place to, whether you have a team that you go and meet in person, or, as I say, if you're a remote worker, which a lot of people in tech are, because you kind of feel like you have this little community, like a little team inside your team to speak to, and having these internal networks, it goes back to that, having that safe space. And there's sometimes conversations that you want to be able to talk to somebody who understands your challenges within your organization, but you don't really want to talk to your boss about it, or you don't really want to talk to the person that sits next to you. But being able to have someone that can understand you and relate to you is so powerful. And as I say, as part of the ERG that I'm with internally, we may be all different parts of the world, but we have a monthly meeting that we get together, and we can talk about everything from work to personal life, and it just creates this really lovely culture that sometimes, if you don't have it outside, to have it like a little group is really good, really good.
Yes, and is surely more likely to make you think, I'll stay at this company, I feel like but you mentioned earlier about that feeling of belonging, and sometimes it can be the tiniest thing that you might want to share with somebody, but that can really make a difference to your day and the way that you feel at work. I completely agree. I love the way that you described it as a team within a team, which is exactly that. Just sometimes, especially with remote working, it can feel very lonely not having people to share that with. And I can't tell you how many conversations we've had on here and our webinars about imposter syndrome. And as soon as you share that with somebody and they say, oh, I feel exactly the same way, it just makes you feel so much better to think someone else is feeling like an imposter. It's not just me. And just to hear it from somebody else that works in your company can make the world of difference, that we're all feeling that way.
Yeah, I think as well, especially if you're working in quite a male-dominated company, and you maybe got a female ERG, it's again comes back to that safe sort of space, and also just to feel like you've at least got room to talk about some of the challenges that just specifically females might face working in a male-dominated industry. Some of those women might have children, and again, that brings a whole new array of challenges, trying to balance career progression and, you know, running and managing a family. So I just think they're critical really for the retention piece as well.
Yes, definitely. I would agree with the word critical there. And obviously, as you said, women have different challenges, and just to hear it from somebody else, and some advice from somebody else on how they dealt with those challenges along the way as well, can be so helpful to your everyday. Lauren, you mentioned a little bit earlier about mentoring and sponsorship. And I wanted to ask you, mentoring is another important aspect of community, but what are your best tips for mentees looking for a mentor? To just walk straight up to somebody and say, hey, will you be my mentor? It's not going to work.
No, and again, I think it first boils down to a bit of self-reflection. You know, what are you looking to achieve? If it's something you want to progress in a certain area, or you want to, I don't know, have a bit more spotlight shone on you in your organization, you know, what is it firstly that you're trying to achieve for yourself? What are your personal goals? And then try and look, you know, there's numerous places you can look for a mentor, whether that be internally, whether that be, again, externally. So I think firstly decide what it is you want to achieve, and then try and look in your immediate, you know, network. Is there anyone that is within my organization or within, I don't know, my friendship group, my LinkedIn network, that I could go out to ask for support on this specific area? If you don't have anyone, it's okay, maybe come back to that networking piece and start to find someone that maybe has the relevant job title, that has, you know, progressed from where you are today to where they are, and you want to find out what was their pathway, how did they progress, and what were the steps that they have taken to get there, and ask the question, you know, make that connection, build the relationship, because I do believe that most you know, mentee-mentor relationships excel when you've sort of got that trust there, you know, that relationship formed, and actually sort of a clear value exchange. What else could they potentially learn from you? You know, the power of reverse mentoring. But I think you need to firstly look at what you want to achieve before just, you know, mass messaging or asking just anyone if actually they're not going to help you achieve whatever your set goal is.
Yes, I love that. Having a purpose, and the fact that you mentioned the value as well, because you are right. I'm sure there are so many people that reach out to mentors and they have a couple of coffees and that's kind of it. If there's no structure to it, it's not going to continue. You're not going to, neither of you are actually going to get much value out of building that relationship, other than saying, oh, I once had a coffee with someone that was kind of a mentor. So you need to express, you know, to them as well, what is the purpose of this? What do I want to get from it? And as you said, reverse mentoring, which was a phrase that I heard on here recently. So I was like, that's absolutely brilliant, learning from each other, and just being open and transparent about what you both really want to get from the relationship. Obviously, Megan, yourself, do you have any tips for mentees looking for mentors? Have you struggled to find a mentor in the past, or how did you do that?
Yeah, I think one of the things I learned was actually not just to have, don't just be focusing on, I mean, just one mentor. You can have multiple different mentors that all serve a different purpose. So I myself personally, within my organization, I have two mentors. One who came, you know, that happened quite authentically. We were working on a project together in two totally different teams, but working on a project together, and we just realized actually we had a lot in common outside of work. And I started to, as Lauren says, I started to build that trust with her as almost like a friend. And then I posed the question. I said, you know, will you be my mentor? Because I also looked at her pathway and I thought, okay, this is something that's really inspiring. And then, you know, we set up a meeting every 2 weeks. We made sure that that was in the diary. You know, she was on a different time zone to me, but like, right, 2 o'clock every Wednesday, that was our meeting. And sometimes we'd have an agenda. Sometimes we would just have half an hour to chat, but by having that cadence set really helped. And then alongside that, I then had a mentor who, you know, he is part of the organisation, but he has a really good coaching background. And he really helped me in another area. And I was able to meet with him in person because he was in my office. And then we kind of have had that in-person catch up kind of once a month, or more ad hoc if we're either grabbing a coffee or something like that. So yeah, never feel like it just has to be one mentor and it has to be very, you know, very really structured and quite set. You know, it can form our friendships. So yeah, just be quite open-minded with it as well.
Yes, and you are right. I think people think it's quite formal to ask for a mentor, and that your relationship back and forth is going to be quite formal, especially if it's internal and it's come through a mentoring program where you've kind of been matched. You might not even know each other, but you've been matched on skills. You know, that your company thinks that this person is going to help you in some way. As you said, it doesn't always form out of friendships. So I love that. Just having different mentors for different purposes can help so much that you don't have to have just one. And Megan, you mentioned a little bit earlier about being introverted, and I myself have the same problem when I go to networking events, because it's always a bit daunting entering a room on your own. Do you have any networking tips for our listeners when you have to walk in and feel a little bit like, I'm here for a networking event, but I don't really feel like networking today?
Yeah, so as I say, it's all about really setting what you want from that event, who you want to go and see. I always, as I said, do the elevator pitch, have that clear in my head. One thing that I also learned a lot, especially being a woman in tech, and you know, as with my pathway into tech, it wasn't the most traditional. I'm not a techie. So there's been times where I've been at a networking event which is full of techies, and I've gone, oh my gosh, I cannot talk this language. And that then triggers that imposter syndrome of going, oh, I shouldn't be here. And actually what I learned to do was that it's okay not to be able to talk the talk. And instead of feeling like, oh, I've got to try and, you know, speak the same language, if I just went and started to talk to somebody about something that I am confident about, which is, you know, perhaps things that I enjoy doing. You know, I love hiking, I love going away in the camper van, and I started to try and build a relationship that actually wasn't, and a conversation that wasn't about work. That was also really good, a really good way to connect with people. So yeah, if you are introverted, or you have that imposter syndrome and you find yourself in a room where, you know, it's a little bit daunting, it's okay just to be yourself and just talk, and I guarantee you will build those connections and be able to have really good networking just on that.
Yes, I love that. And I think also just starting those conversations about things that you love, you probably also started to realize that not everybody in that room was technical. And sometimes it's just something that we think that everybody who works in tech is going to be technical, and I'm standing in a room full of techies and I daren't say anything to anyone. And actually, when you start talking, there's lots of different roles that people are doing at companies. There might be product managers or just really good communicators about, you know, business problems, and how their job in tech really brings about impact, and they're not actually there as one of the techies. So it's always interesting to see when you do walk up to somebody in a room and start talking to them, you realize actually you're not as technical as I thought you were going to be. But great to start conversations on just things that you love is a really good piece of advice. Lauren, yourself, do you have any networking tips for our listeners?
Yeah, I think just as a general acceptance of, it's likely that I'm going to feel uncomfortable, but I'm not the only one. You know, there will be other people in that room that are going to be feeling exactly like you. And, you know, I don't know about some of the listeners, but for me, when I've seen real areas of growth in my life, it's when I've put myself in uncomfortable situations, which have then made a return, you know, if you know. So it's really about going in with that purpose, like always coming back to that. And even if you have to, you know, do little bite-sized things that just help you overcome, you know, your own sort of battles you're having in your mind. Okay, today I'm going to speak to 3 people. You know, just set yourself little bite-sized goals, and then when you go to the next event, you might increase that, etc. And, you know, just know that you're going to a networking event to network, you know. And if it's another purpose where you're listening to talks, or, you know, sometimes that isn't the purpose to speak to people. But if you are attending a mainly networking event, it's okay, how do I break this down so it doesn't seem so scary? Yes, there might be a lot of people there that I've never met before. You know, maybe you're an introvert like Meg, and actually you're a bit nervous to start that conversation. So set yourself little mini targets, and just make sure to remind yourself you're not the only one that will feel that way. Yes,
and I love that you use the word bite size. You are correct. I think we seem to think that when you look at the CEO, the high-flying female CEO is incredibly connected, and you see she posts something on LinkedIn and she gets 400 comments in about an hour, that you kind of think, well, maybe she built that overnight. She obviously didn't build that overnight. It was done in bite-sized chunks, as you said, and that networking was done one person at a time. And if you start to break it down in that way, it's not as daunting, but it is really difficult when I think nowadays we tend to compare ourselves to everybody, and if you are comparing yourself to somebody that is really far ahead in their career and already done all of that networking, that's just not a good place to start. As you said, you just need to start with one person at a time, and you said make yourself feel a little bit uncomfortable, and eventually you will progress. Obviously we've said it takes a little while to find your tribe, as we say. We're nearly out of time today, but I did want to ask you one last question about finding your tribe. Do you have any last words of wisdom on why our listeners should actively go and find their tribe? Megan, shall we start with you?
Yeah, do you know what, it's so empowering to be in a space where you have like-minded people around you to support you, to be able to discuss challenges openly. It's just an incredible feeling, and the takeaways that you will get from having your own tribe is you'll get to learn from one another. It's amazing the ideas that can come out of a conversation, and you get new perspectives on challenges. It's an incredibly empowering experience once you find your tribe, and I guarantee you will be with them for a long time as well. It's you know, my own network, who, you know, that I've created around me, you know, it's been years, and it's just, yeah, it's incredibly empowering.
Yes, I love that. And Lauren, yourself?
Yeah, I think over the past year I've done some really purposeful networking, and that's enabled me again to find my tribe and create a bigger tribe, you know, around it, in terms of, you know, the tribe that Meg and I are building and the community we're building. And essentially, you know, there's pre-existing communities that you can enter that then enables you to be in a room, or, you know, a virtual room if you like, or a physical room, of women that network has been built over years, but you are now immersed in that community. You are now surrounded by people like you. You know, opportunities can come from that, whether that be employment opportunities, you know, podcasts, panel discussions, you know, all things that will help you progress in your career. And I think that's my biggest learning lesson, and I guess something that I really bang on about a lot is the power of networking, and you know, finding that tribe, the doors that it can open for you. It's just about giving it, you know, enough time and effort to actually then see what that can bring to you, not only to your professional life but to your personal life, especially if you're, like I said, a female, you know, working in tech where there's not many females in your organization. How do you find your tribe, which will see you get through some of the challenging times, but also empower you and positively challenge you to, you know, reach your full potential?
Yes, definitely. And on that note, I would love to know as well, can you share with us what's next for Tribe? What do you plan to do next?
Yeah, so we're going to continue to build our community. We're at the Women in Business and Tech Expo, so we're really looking forward to seeing a lot of people there. And for us, it's just about, trying to create that positive change, trying to create, work with as many organisations as possible to work with both, men and women to create more opportunities for females to progress up into leadership.
Yeah, I love it. And I would love for you to come back at some point and share your journey with us. I'm sure our listeners have found today's conversation absolutely invaluable. Where can our ladies connect with you? What is the best way to get involved in what you're doing?
So you can connect with us on LinkedIn. We do have a page on LinkedIn, obviously our own personal profiles. We also have a website which is linked to our LinkedIn page as well, where people can get more information on Tribe or apply for a membership.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Megan and Lauren, for taking the time to have a chat with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you so much.
Thank you
for having us.
And to everybody listening, as always, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you again next time.